The light in the examination room shifted from a sterile white to a pulsing blue as Frank Adams opened his eyes. Pain throbbed behind his temples and his vision swam with floating black spots. He'd been unconscious for, how long? Minutes? Hours. The last thing he remembered was the sudden violent jolt as his ship collided with something in orbit around Mars. "Subject is regaining consciousness," announced a voice that sounded like water trickling over metallic pebbles. "Vitals stabilizing." Frank tried to sit up, but found his limbs restrained by some kind of translucent gel straps. Panic surged through him as he realized he wasn't on his own vessel anymore. The ceiling above him was curved and lined with lights that changed color in response to his elevated heart rate. "Where am I?" Frank demanded, his voice cracking from dryness. "Who are you people?" A figure stepped into his field of vision and Frank's breath caught in his throat. Standing over him was unmistakably not human. The being stood about 7 feet tall with 4 arms, a slender torso, and skin that seemed to shift between shades of blue and green. Its face was oval with 3 sets of eyes arranged vertically, each pair a different size, and what looked like breathing membranes where a nose would be on a human. "Please remain calm, human Frank," the alien said, its English perfect but with a strange musical quality. "I am Chief Medical Officer Zrilak of the Alturian Medical Fleet. Your vessel was severely damaged in a collision with space debris. We intercepted your distress signal and brought you aboard for treatment." Another alien, slightly shorter with more purple tones to its skin, approached from Frank's right side holding what appeared to be a holographic display. "The patient has multiple contusions, 3 fractured ribs, a dislocated shoulder which we have already reset, and significant head trauma," the second alien reported. "Cerebral scan is complete, Zrilak." Zrilak made a gesture with its upper right hand, and the holographic display expanded, projecting a 3-dimensional image of what Frank recognized as a human brain, his brain rotating slowly in the air above him. "Fascinating," Zrilak commented, using a finger to zoom in on a specific region. "There appears to be extensive scarring in multiple regions of the cerebral tissue. This damage predates the current injury." The alien turned its middle pair of eyes toward Frank. "Your brain contains numerous healed lesions. Were you aware of this condition?" Frank blinked, trying to process the situation. "You mean the scar tissue? Yeah, that's from concussions." All 3 sets of Zrilak's eyes widened simultaneously, and the 2 aliens exchanged what seemed like concerned glances. "Concussions?" the second alien asked. "You are aware you have sustained multiple traumatic brain injuries in the past?" "Sure," Frank replied, attempting a nonchalant shrug despite the restraints. "Played football through high school and college, had a few motorcycle accidents too. It happens." The aliens were silent for a moment, their skin colors shifting in what Frank assumed was their version of nonverbal communication. "Human Frank," Zrilak finally said, "you speak of severe brain trauma as if it is inconsequential. This extensive scarring indicates you have experienced no fewer than 7 significant brain injuries. On Alturia, a single such injury would require months of specialized neural regeneration therapy." "Wait," Frank said, suddenly more alert. "You can fix brain damage." The second alien made a sound like wind chimes. "Of course. Neural regeneration is standard procedure for any cranial trauma. Are humans unable to treat such injuries?" Frank tried to laugh, but the pain in his ribs cut it short. "Not really. They just tell us to rest and not get hit in the head again, which, you know, doesn't always work out." The alien's skin tones darkened simultaneously, which Frank suspected might indicate alarm or concern. "This is deeply troubling," Zrilak said. "Untreated brain injuries have cumulative effects. Your neural pathways show signs of progressive degeneration that will eventually lead to cognitive decline, mood disorders, and potentially early-onset dementia." The reality of his situation was beginning to sink in for Frank. He'd been rescued by an alien medical ship with technology far beyond Earth's capabilities, and they were telling him something his human doctors had always downplayed. "So what happens now?" Frank asked. "Are you going to send me back to Earth?" Zrilak gestured to the second alien, who adjusted something on the control panel near Frank's bed. The gel restraints loosened slightly, allowing him more comfort without fully releasing him. "Your injuries require treatment," Zrilak explained. "The Alturian Medical Fleet operates under the Galactic Health Protocol, which mandates we provide care to any sentient being in distress, regardless of species. We are currently on course to rendezvous with our medical station in orbit around your solar system's gas giant Jupiter. There, we can properly address both your acute injuries and the chronic neural damage." Frank felt a mixture of relief and trepidation. "How long will that take?" "Approximately 3 of your Earth days," the second alien replied. "I am Assistant Medical Officer Vren, by the way. I specialize in xenoneurology, the study of nervous systems across species." 3 days, Frank repeated. "People will notice I'm missing. The Mars colony will report my ship never arrived." Zrilak made a gesture that might have been the alien equivalent of nodding. "We have already transmitted a message using your communication protocols, informing your authorities that your vessel required emergency repairs due to micrometeorite damage. This is not entirely untrue. Your ship is currently being repaired by our engineering drones." Frank relaxed slightly against the examination table. "So you've done this before, rescued humans?" "You are the 7th human patient we have treated in the past decade," Vren confirmed. "Though the first with such extensive pre-existing neural damage." "Lucky me," Frank muttered. "Indeed, you are fortunate," Zrilak said, missing the sarcasm. "Had we not intercepted you, the new trauma would have likely caused a cerebral hemorrhage within hours, resulting in your death." A chill ran down Frank's spine. "That's serious, huh?" "I'm afraid so," Vren said, adjusting the holographic display to highlight a different area of Frank's brain. "This fresh injury has caused swelling near your previous scarring. Your human medical facilities would struggle to address this with precision." Frank stared at the rotating image of his injured brain, feeling suddenly vulnerable. "And you can fix it, all of it." "The acute injury, yes," Zrilak confirmed. "The chronic damage is more complex. Neural regeneration works best on recent injuries. Your older scars will require a more extensive treatment protocol." "What does that involve?" Frank asked cautiously. Vren's skin shimmered with ripples of blue and green. "Nanoscale neural reconstructors will be introduced to your cerebrospinal fluid. They identify damaged tissue and stimulate your own natural healing processes while providing structural support. The process is painless but requires approximately 2 weeks of carefully monitored treatment." Frank's eyes widened. 2 weeks? I can't disappear for 2 weeks. "I have a job, responsibilities. Your alternative," Zrilak interrupted gently, "is to continue with progressively worsening neural function. Our scans indicate you are already experiencing symptoms: memory lapses, mood instability, occasional visual disturbances. These will only intensify with time." Frank fell silent. The alien was right, he had been experiencing those exact symptoms but had attributed them to stress and overwork. The headaches had been getting worse too. "If I agree to this treatment," he finally said, "what happens after? Will I be normal again?" The 2 aliens exchanged another look, their skin tones shifting in that silent communication. "Human neural tissue has remarkable plasticity," Vren explained. "While we cannot completely reverse all damage, we can restore approximately 80% of your lost neural function and prevent further degeneration. You would likely experience significant improvement in memory, concentration, emotional regulation, and sensory processing. We should proceed with treating your acute injuries now," Zrilak added. "You can decide about the longer-term therapy after you have recovered from the immediate trauma." Frank nodded slowly. "All right, do what you need to do." Zrilak made a gesture. and the examination table began to reconfigure itself around Frank, forming a more comfortable position that supported his injured body perfectly. You will feel a slight pressure as the neural stabilizer connects, Vren warned just before Frank felt a cool sensation at the base of his skull. A wave of tingling spread across his scalp, followed by blessed relief as the pain that had been pounding behind his eyes suddenly diminished. "Whoa," Frank breathed. That's incredible." "This is merely a temporary measure," Zirilak explained. "The stabilizer is reducing inflammation and restoring normal electrical patterns to your neural tissue. True healing will require more comprehensive intervention." Frank watched as Vren approached with what looked like a small silver disc in one of its hands. "This diagnostic tag will monitor your neural activity and vital signs," the alien explained, placing the disc against Frank's temple where it adhered painlessly. "It also contains a universal translator, which will allow you to understand any crew members you encounter, regardless of their native language." "How many species are there on this ship?" Frank asked, his curiosity overcoming his anxiety. "The Alturian Medical Fleet employs medical professionals from 16 different sentient species," Zirilak answered. "Our vessel currently has crew members from 9 of those species on board, and you all get along," Frank couldn't help asking. Vren made the wind chime sound again, which Frank now realized might be laughter. "Medicine is perhaps the most universal science. All sentient beings seek to alleviate suffering and extend life. It provides common ground across even the most diverse biological and cultural differences." As they spoke, a third alien entered the examination room. This one was shorter and stockier than the Alturians, with reddish-orange skin and what appeared to be a hard carapace covering parts of its body. "Ah, Dr. Clax," Zirilak greeted the newcomer. "Thank you for joining us, Doctor." "Clax is our specialist in human physiology," he explained to Frank. "Greetings, human patient," Dr. Clax said in a deep, resonant voice. "I have reviewed your scans. Your species' approach to brain injuries is most concerning," Frank sighed. "It's not like we choose to ignore them. We just don't have the technology to fix them properly. Yet you deliberately engage in activities known to cause such injuries," Dr. Clax asked, sounding genuinely puzzled. "Your medical records indicate you participated in a sport called football which regularly resulted in cranial impacts." "Well, when you put it that way," Frank mumbled. "Cultural differences," Zirilak interjected diplomatically. "Many species engage in risk-taking behaviors that others find perplexing." Dr. Clax made a clicking sound with what might have been mandibles beneath his faceplates. "Indeed. Nevertheless, I believe we can significantly improve this human's neural function. I have prepared a treatment protocol based on previous human patients and the specific pattern of injuries present." As the 3 alien doctors discussed Frank's treatment plan, he found himself marveling at the strangeness of his situation. 24 hours ago, he'd been a normal transport pilot making a routine run to Mars colony. Now he was on an alien medical ship, being told that the concussions he'd accumulated throughout his life were far more serious than any human doctor had ever indicated. The medical discussion was interrupted by a chime, and a holographic display appeared near the ceiling, showing what Frank assumed was another area of the ship. A tall, willowy alien with features that reminded Frank of a praying mantis was speaking rapidly. "Chief Medical Officer, we have received a communication from Jupiter Station. They are tracking unusual activity from Earth's military vessels and recommend we alter course to avoid detection." Zirilak's skin darkened with concern. "Understood, Navigation Officer. Plot a route that will minimize our visibility while maintaining our scheduled arrival time." The display disappeared, and Zirilak turned back to Frank. "It seems your species' authorities are becoming more vigilant about monitoring their outer solar system. We typically prefer to avoid direct contact with planetary governments until they have officially joined the galactic community." "Wait," Frank said, Earth doesn't know about you, about any of this. Your governments are aware of extraterrestrial life, Vren explained. Several of your nations have had limited contact with various species. However, there has been no formal admission of Earth into the galactic community due to ongoing concerns about political stability and technological maturity. So I'm not supposed to tell anyone about this when I get back. Frank asked, "Would you be believed if you did?" Dr. Clax asked bluntly. Frank thought about it for a moment. "Probably not. I'd likely end up in a psych evaluation." "Precisely," Zirelek said. "This is typically why we feel comfortable treating human patients." Your society's skepticism about extraterrestrial contact provides a natural buffer against premature cultural exposure. Frank wasn't sure whether to feel insulted or relieved. "So what happens now?" "Now," Dr. Clax said, "we begin treatment of your acute neural trauma. The procedure will take approximately 6 hours, during which you will be in a medically induced sleep state. Upon awakening, your immediate symptoms should be significantly reduced." "And after that?" Frank asked. "After that," Zirelek answered, "you will need to decide whether to undergo the full neural regeneration protocol for your chronic injuries. It is entirely your choice." Frank nodded slowly. "Let's start with fixing the immediate problem. I'll think about the rest." "A wise approach," Vren agreed. "We will prepare the surgical chamber." As the aliens busied themselves with preparations, Frank closed his eyes and tried to process everything that had happened. Part of him wanted to believe this was all an elaborate hallucination caused by his head injury, but the relief from the neural stabilizer felt too real. For the first time in years, the constant background headache that he'd learned to live with was gone. Maybe these aliens were right. Maybe the human approach to brain injuries was woefully inadequate. And if so, what else might they be right about? Frank opened his eyes again to see Zirelak approaching with what looked like a transparent mask. "This will deliver the sedative," the alien explained. "It is calibrated specifically for human physiology. You will experience a sensation of warmth followed by sleep. When you awaken, we will be at Jupiter Station." "What if?" Frank started to ask, but Zirelak seemed to anticipate his question. "Your ship will be fully repaired and ready for your return journey, regardless of your decision about further treatment. We will not keep you against your will." Frank nodded, feeling somewhat reassured. "Okay, I'm ready." Zirelak placed the mask over Frank's face, and a sweet-smelling mist began to fill it. Almost immediately, Frank felt a pleasant warmth spreading through his body, starting at his face and flowing downward. His eyelids grew heavy, and his last conscious thought was wondering what Jupiter Station might look like. When Frank next opened his eyes, the environment had changed completely. He was in a larger room with curved walls that seemed to be made of some sort of living material that pulsed gently with bioluminescence. The examination table had been replaced by a comfortable bed that conformed perfectly to his body. "Good, you are awake," came Vren's voice from nearby. The alien approached, skin shifting in pleasant patterns of blue and green. "The procedure was successful. How do you feel?" Frank took a moment to assess himself. The pain in his ribs was still there but duller, more manageable. The pressure in his head was completely gone and his thoughts felt clearer than they had in years. "I feel good," Frank said, surprised by his own answer. "Really good, actually. My head is clear." "Excellent," Vren said, clearly pleased. "The acute trauma has been resolved, and we were able to reduce some of the inflammation around your older injuries as well. This has temporarily improved neural function, but without the full regeneration protocol, these effects will gradually diminish over several months." Frank carefully sat up, noticing that the gel restraints were gone. "Where are we now?" "Jupiter Station," Vren replied. "We arrived while you were in recovery." The station is currently hidden within Jupiter's upper atmosphere, using the planet's electromagnetic field to mask its presence from Earth's detection systems. As if on cue, a section of the wall became transparent, revealing a breathtaking view. Frank gasped as he saw the swirling clouds of Jupiter stretching out below, with the massive structure of the station extending in all directions. It looked like a giant crystalline snowflake, with spokes radiating from a central hub, each containing what appeared to be different environments. "It's beautiful," Frank whispered. "Jupiter Station serves as our primary medical facility in your solar system," Vren explained. "It contains specialized treatment centers for over 200 different species, research laboratories, and a permanent population of approximately 12,000 medical professionals and support staff." "And Earth has no idea this is here?" Frank asked incredulously. "Your astronomers occasionally detect anomalies in Jupiter's atmosphere that they cannot explain," Vren said with what might have been a smile. "But the station's cloaking systems prevent any conclusive observations." The door to the room slid open, and Zrilak entered, followed by Dr. Clax and a new alien Frank hadn't seen before. This one had pale, almost translucent skin and a head that tapered to a point where several sensory appendages waved gently. "Human Frank," Zrilak greeted him. "I am pleased to see you recovering well. This is Director Plen, who oversees Jupiter Station's Human Treatment Division." "Greetings," Director Plen said in a melodious voice. "Your case is quite interesting. We rarely have the opportunity to study the long-term effects of repeated neural trauma in humans." "Lucky me," Frank said dryly. "Indeed," Director Plen replied, missing the sarcasm just as Zrilak had. "We have prepared a comprehensive treatment plan for your chronic neural damage should you choose to proceed. Dr. Clax will explain the details." Dr. Clax stepped forward, activating a holographic display that showed Frank's brain again, this time with the damaged areas highlighted in different colors. "The yellow regions indicate recent trauma, which we have already addressed," Dr. Clax explained. "The red areas show older damage from your previous injuries. These areas exhibit reduced neural connectivity, abnormal protein accumulation, and compromised blood-brain barrier function." Frank stared at the image, suddenly confronting the reality of his injuries in a way no human doctor had ever shown him. "And this is causing problems?" "It already has been," Vren interjected gently. "The memory issues, mood changes, and headaches you have experienced are direct results of this damage. Without intervention, these symptoms will worsen over time. The full regeneration protocol involves 3 phases," Dr. Clax continued. "First, nanoscale reconstructors will remove abnormal protein buildup and repair damaged cellular structures. Second, neural stimulators will re-establish proper connectivity patterns between brain regions. Finally, a specialized stem cell treatment will strengthen the blood-brain barrier and promote the growth of supportive glial cells." "How long would all this take?" Frank asked. "The entire process requires 14 Earth days," Director Plen answered. "You would remain here at Jupiter Station for the duration. The treatment itself is not uncomfortable, and you would be conscious for most of it, with full mobility except during specific treatment sessions." Frank thought about his life back on Earth. He was between assignments, having just completed his contract with the Mars Colony Transport Authority. He wasn't expected back for at least 3 weeks, but 2 weeks was still a significant commitment. "What about my ship?" he asked. "Your vessel has been fully repaired," Zrilak assured him. "If you choose to decline treatment, you can depart immediately with a course plotted back to Earth. If you accept treatment, your ship will remain docked at the station until you are ready to return." Frank stood up cautiously, testing his balance. To his surprise, he felt steady and stronger than expected. "Can I have some time to think about it?" "Of course," Director Plen said. "Perhaps a tour of the station would help inform your decision. Many patients find it reassuring to see our facilities firsthand." Frank nodded. "I'd like that." "Excellent," Director Plen said. "Assistant Medical Officer Vren will escort you. Your diagnostic tag will continue to monitor your condition and provide translation services." As Frank followed Vren out of the recovery room and into a wide corridor, he was struck by the diversity of beings they passed. Some were vaguely humanoid, while others bore no resemblance to any Earth creature he could imagine. Yet all moved with purpose, clearly engaged in the serious business of healing. This section houses our emergency treatment facilities, Vren explained as they passed a series of rooms where medical personnel of various species attended to patients. We receive approximately 20 emergency cases daily from throughout the solar system. All aliens? Frank asked. Mostly yes, Vren confirmed, though occasionally humans who have ventured beyond Earth's immediate vicinity. Your species is becoming increasingly adventurous in its space exploration. They entered a large atrium where the ceiling opened up to reveal more of Jupiter's swirling atmosphere above them. The space was filled with what appeared to be gardens, though the plants were unlike any Frank had ever seen, with colors spanning beyond what he thought possible. This is one of our rehabilitation areas, Vren explained. Different species require different environments for optimal recovery. These gardens contain plants from over 30 worlds, each with specific therapeutic properties. As they walked, Frank noticed a few humans among the patients recovering in the gardens. One woman was sitting on a bench, her hand held by what appeared to be a 7-foot-tall insectoid being. "Are those other humans?" Frank asked, pointing discreetly. Vren followed his gaze. "Yes, currently there are 11 human patients receiving treatment at Jupiter Station. Most are space travelers who encountered emergencies beyond Earth's reach. A few, like yourself, were brought here specifically for treatment of conditions that Earth medicine cannot adequately address. And they all chose to stay for treatment. Most do," Vren said. "Once they understand the benefits and see our facilities, the decision becomes clearer." They continued through several more areas of the station, including a large observation deck that provided spectacular views of Jupiter's great red spots swirling below them. Finally, they arrived at what Vren described as the Neural Regeneration Center. The space was serene, with soft lighting and comfortable-looking treatment pods arranged in a circle around a central monitoring station. Each pod was customized for different physiologies, with several clearly designed for human patients. "This is where your treatment would take place," Vren explained. "You would spend approximately 4 hours each day in a treatment pod while the nanoreconstructors and neural stimulators do their work. The remainder of your time would be your own to rest, explore the station, or interact with other patients." Frank approached one of the human-designed pods, examining it closely. "It doesn't look too intimidating. The process is designed to be comfortable," Vren assured him. "Many patients report that the neural stimulation produces pleasant sensations, sometimes even euphoric ones, as damaged connections are restored." As Frank was considering this, the door to the center opened, and a human man entered. He appeared to be in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and a relaxed expression. When he spotted Frank, his eyes widened in surprise. "Another Earthling, huh?" the man said with a friendly smile, approaching and extending his hand. "Gerald Thompson, lunar mining engineer. Pressure seal blew on my habitat 6 months ago, brain damage from oxygen deprivation." Frank shook his hand. "Frank Adams, transport pilot, collision near Mars orbit, but apparently I had a lot of old football concussions they're concerned about." Gerald nodded knowingly. "Let me guess, they showed you the brain scan with all the red spots, and you're trying to decide if 2 weeks of alien medical care is worth it." "Something like that," Frank admitted. "I was skeptical too," Gerald said, "but I'm on day 10 of treatment now and—" He paused, tapping his temple. "I haven't felt this clear-headed in years. Memories coming back, mood stable. It's like being young again, mentally speaking." "Any side effects?" Frank asked cautiously. Gerald shrugged. "Dreams are more vivid. Sometimes I think in colors that don't exist on Earth. Doctor says that's normal, new neural pathways forming. Small price to pay for getting my brain back." Frank glanced at Vren, who had respectfully stepped back to allow the humans to converse privately. So you'd recommend it? Let me put it this way, Gerald said, lowering his voice. If I went back to the moon and told people I spent 2 weeks getting my brain fixed by aliens at a secret space station hiding in Jupiter's clouds, they'd have me committed. But that doesn't change the fact that I was losing myself before and now I'm not. Sometimes the crazy option is the right one. Frank found himself nodding. I appreciate the honesty. Anytime, Gerald replied. Look me up if you decide to stay. We humans gotta stick together out here. With a friendly wave, he headed toward one of the treatment pods where a medical attendant was waiting. Vren approached Frank again. Would you like to see more of the station, or do you have questions about what you've observed so far? Frank took a deep breath. Actually, I think I've made my decision. The next 2 weeks passed more quickly than Frank could have imagined. The neural regeneration treatment was exactly as described, 4 hours daily in a treatment pod, with the rest of his time free. He spent much of it exploring Jupiter Station, befriending other human patients, and learning about the various alien species that staffed and visited the facility. The treatment itself was surprisingly pleasant. During each session, Frank would lie in the pod while a specialized neural interface connected to the diagnostic tag on his temple. As the nanoreconstructors worked to repair his damaged brain tissue, he experienced shifting patterns of light and sensation, sometimes accompanied by random memories becoming suddenly crystal clear. By the end of the first week, the improvements were unmistakable. Frank's headaches were completely gone. His memory, which he hadn't even realized had deteriorated, was sharper than it had been since college. Colors seemed more vivid, sounds more distinct, and his emotional responses more appropriate and controlled. The quantitative improvements are impressive, Dr. Clax told him during his midpoint evaluation. Neural connectivity has increased by 32% in the formerly damaged regions. Protein clearance is proceeding ahead of schedule, and your glial support cells are showing excellent regeneration patterns. I can feel the difference, Frank admitted. It's like I've been looking at the world through a dirty window for years and someone finally cleaned it. An apt metaphor, Zrilek said, joining them for the evaluation. The human brain is remarkably resilient, but it requires proper care. Your species' approach to brain injuries is akin to ignoring a cracked window until it shatters completely. During his free time, Frank often found himself in the company of Gerald and the other human patients. They formed a sort of informal support group, sharing stories about their injuries and marveling at the advanced care they were receiving. You know what gets me, said Tara, a deep space survey pilot who had suffered radiation damage to her brain during a solar flare. Back home, they act like brain injuries are just something you have to live with. Sorry about your concussion, take it easy for a week. Meanwhile, out here they're rebuilding neural pathways like it's routine maintenance. Makes you wonder what else Earth medicine is missing, Gerald added. What other incurable conditions aren't actually incurable at all? Frank thought about this often as his treatment progressed. By the beginning of his second week, the differences were profound. Not only were his cognitive functions sharper, but his emotional regulation had improved dramatically. The occasional mood swings and flashes of inappropriate anger that he'd experienced for years and had attributed to just being his personality were gone. Your final treatment session will be tomorrow, Vren informed him on the 13th day. After that, Dr. Clax will perform a comprehensive evaluation to ensure the regeneration has stabilized properly. And then I go home, Frank asked, surprised to find himself feeling somewhat reluctant. If that is your wish, Vren confirmed, your ship remains ready for your return journey. We have maintained the official story that you were delayed due to extensive repairs. That night, Frank found himself on the observation deck, watching the hypnotic swirls of Jupiter's clouds below. Gerald joined him, leaning on the railing beside him. Heading back tomorrow? Gerald asked. Day after, Frank replied. Final evaluation first, Gerald nodded. I leave next week, back to the mines and pretending none of this ever happened. Do you think it's right? Frank asked suddenly. Keeping all this a secret from Earth, this technology could help so many people. Gerald sighed. I've thought about that a lot, but I've also seen how we treat each other back home. Wars, inequality, environmental destruction. Maybe the galactic community has a point about us not being ready. Maybe, Frank conceded, but it still feels wrong somehow. Look at it this way, Gerald suggested. We're like advanced scouts. Someday Earth will join the wider galactic civilization, and when that happens, people like us who have seen what's possible will help bridge the gap. Frank's final treatment session and evaluation confirmed what he already felt. His brain had been restored to nearly optimal function. The scar tissue from his old concussions was still visible on scans, but had been effectively bypassed with new neural pathways. His cognitive tests showed performance levels consistent with a much younger, uninjured brain. The regeneration has been highly successful, Dr. Clax confirmed as they reviewed the final scans. While some structural evidence of your previous injuries remains, functional capacity has been restored to approximately 92% of optimal levels, even better than our initial estimate. What about long-term? Frank asked. Will I need maintenance or follow-up care? The repairs should be permanent, Ziralak explained. However, your brain remains as vulnerable as any humans to future injury. I would strongly advise against returning to activities with high concussion risks. No more football, Frank agreed with a smile, not that I've played in years anyway. On his final day at Jupiter Station, Frank was surprised to find Director Plen waiting for him as he prepared to board his repaired ship. Human Frank, the director greeted him. Before you depart, I wish to provide you with this. The alien handed him what appeared to be a small metallic disc, similar to the diagnostic tag but smaller. What is it? Frank asked, examining the object. A subspace emergency beacon, Director Plen explained. It is keyed specifically to your neural pattern. Should you ever experience a medical emergency beyond Earth's capability to address, activating it will alert our nearest medical vessel to your location. Frank was touched by the gesture. Thank you, that's very thoughtful. It is standard procedure for all our human patients, Director Plen clarified. Though we must maintain certain boundaries with pre-galactic civilizations, we do not abandon those we have treated. As Frank prepared for departure, Vren provided final instructions for his return to Earth. Your ship's navigation system has been programmed with a course that will appear to originate from Mars space, maintaining your cover story, the alien explained. The system will automatically delete all evidence of your time here once you enter Earth orbit. What about my medical records? Frank asked. Won't Earth doctors notice the changes in my brain if I ever need a scan? The nanoreconstructors leave no detectable technological footprint, Vren assured him. Any changes will appear as natural healing. Quite remarkable healing, perhaps, but nothing that would suggest extraterrestrial intervention. With final goodbyes said, Frank boarded his ship. As the airlock sealed behind him, he took one last look at Jupiter Station through the viewport. From the outside, the massive structure was barely visible within Jupiter's swirling clouds, its cloaking technology rendering it little more than a subtle distortion in the atmosphere. As his ship detached and began its journey back to Earth, Frank felt a mixture of gratitude and responsibility. His brain had been healed by technology far beyond Earth's capabilities, giving him a second chance at full cognitive health. He might never be able to share the truth of his experience, but he could use his restored mind to make the most of the gift he'd been given. 3 days later, as Earth grew from a blue dot to a full planet in his view screen, Frank activated his communication system. Mars Transport Alpha 97 to Earth Control, he transmitted. Repairs complete, requesting approach vector for landing. Alpha 97, this is Earth Control, came the response. We've been wondering where you've been. Welcome home." Frank smiled to himself. "Good to be back," he replied, knowing that he returned changed in ways Earth Control could never imagine. The scar tissue in his brain might still be visible on a scan, but its power to damage his future was gone. As his ship began its descent through Earth's atmosphere, Frank Adams made a silent promise to himself. Someday, when humanity was ready, he would tell his story. Until then, he would live the second chance he'd been given to its fullest potential with a clear mind and a grateful heart.